Why are the seats in it?
I don't know. Hello. Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome. What a crowd we have tonight. Thank you for being out here. Before we get started, I do want to point out that Tanya has put together a reception for everyone. There's cupcakes and coffee in the back, so please feel free to get up and help yourselves. Grab one on the way out. We would love to have you join us in celebrating tonight. So thank you, Tanya. And now I will call the Tuesday, January 30th, 2024 Peninsula School District Board of Directors meeting to order. We have some incredibly special guests here with us tonight from Voyager Elementary. A couple of weeks ago, Voyager students invited me to come out and speak to them about what school board members do. So I was so thrilled to be able to come and talk to them. And at the end of that meeting, I said, hey, listen, if any of you ever want to come to a board meeting or maybe lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, we would love to have you out. And the next day, Miss Johnson emailed me and said she had a student who was eager to do so and really wanted to be a leader in her school and in this community. So Hallie Devaney is here with us, and then her brother Willem also wanted to join in and do that. So I would like to call Hallie and Willem up here to lead us in the pledge. Well, we're going to have them introduce themselves first.
Oh, okay.
So I know I just said your name, but if you would like to introduce yourself, maybe speak to this mic and tell us what grade you're in and what class you're in, make sure I got it right, and maybe tell us what's your favorite thing about school.
Okay. Hi,
You're fine, yeah.
Hi, my name's Hallie Devaney, and I'm in 5th grade at Voyager Elementary.
Hi, my name is Willem, and I go to Voyager Elementary, and I'm 2nd grade in Miss Puccio's class.
Okay, but can you tell us, for those of us who haven't been out there maybe, what is the coolest thing that happens at your school? Or one of the coolest things among many? Or your favorite class, maybe?
My favorite class would be probably math class.
Math class, excellent.
My favorite class is math.
Math as well. Are mom and dad mathematicians? All right, one more tough question. I'm going to put you on the spot. As of today, what would you like to do when you are grown up? What job would you like to have?
I would like to become a nurse.
Excellent. Math will be very helpful for that job.
I would like to be a police officer.
Excellent. Oh, outstanding, you guys. Okay, Hallie, would you like to invite everyone to stand and join us in the pledge?
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right. I'm going to have you guys get in front of me here. Make sure that I can see, and then you start.
Please, I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, you guys. I think we earned these. Thank you so much. Well done.
Good job, you guys.
Can we get a picture real quick with the whole board? Okay, so fair warning for anyone else who ever wants to lead the pledge, there's usually a bag or some kind of gummy bears involved with that, so keep that in mind. All right, moving on to the approval of the agenda for this evening. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second it. The mic's on.
It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Chuck to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion is carried and the agenda is approved. We are now on item 4. We're so thrilled to have our student reps back. It seems like such a long time since we've seen you, so welcome. It's finals week too, so we're going to try, if you guys need to leave to study, you take care of that first, obviously, but we're going to start with Peninsula this evening.
Hi, I'm Adam Massery. I'm the junior representative for the student school board. So at Peninsula, things have been pretty good. Pretty slow start to January, coming back from winter break, but winter sports are wrapping up around mid-February. Girls and boys wrestling finished off their season really strong. I know the girls won their league tournament. Did the boys win? No, the boys didn't win, but they did really good. Boys and girls basketball has a game tonight, and we wish them a ton of luck. We have a play coming up, and the theme was. Oh, why'd you write it here? Okay. Okay. Well, we had a play, and the theme was Freaky Friday, and it went really well. We have another play coming up, and do you remember what it was? Neither of us can remember what it was. We were talking about it before. We were talking about it beforehand, and we.
It's something that we all know. Okay. Keep going, Adam.
Anyway, so the semester's coming to an end, so we got all our finals. It's a lot of work, but our students are powering through, and we're doing great. We had an MLK assembly, and it was super good. We had a guest speaker, and she talked about a lot of great stuff, and she was really good. Oh, she's here tonight. She's right here. Some upcoming events we have at Peninsula. We have Share the Love Month, where basically every single week there's going to be like a different Share the Love theme. So like one week will be like love yourself, another one will be like love each other, love your community, and love your school. We have a Matchematics fundraiser for the junior class, and so basically like you take a survey, and the survey is free to take, and then you pay $3 to get your results, and it just tells you like who would be your best match based on whoever took like the survey, and it tells you like some stuff about you. So it's pretty cool. It went really well last year, so hopefully it's the same this year. We have a talent show on February 7th. All of our ASB is supposed to do it. Some aren't. Alec is. He's excited. And yeah, it's also School Board Appreciation Day today. So thank you, School Board. We appreciate you. And we made a video for you guys at Peninsula. So if we could play it right now.
What do you appreciate about the school board and what they do for us? I appreciate everything they do for us students.
What do you appreciate about the school board and what they do for us?
I really appreciate the support they give us.
I wish I could appreciate somebody today.
Did you know it's School Board Appreciation Day?
No way, that's awesome.
Thank you, Peninsula School Board.
Thank you, Peninsula School Board.
Thank you, Peninsula School Board. That's
Peninsula School Board. Thank you, Peninsula School Board.
all right.
Thank you, Peninsula School Board, for all that you do.
Thank you, Peninsula School Board.
Thank you, Peninsula School Board.
That was fantastic.
Hey, Alec's gonna finish it off.
There's one thing left. Okay. Well, we're getting ready for some second semester projects. Some of those coming up. We got Spring Fling coming up in March 9th. And we have Mr. Peninsula coming up as well. So I'm just getting ready for some of those projects, and also spring sports, which are now open for registration. So yeah, that's it.
Are you going to share with us what your talent is, or is that a surprise?
You have to come to see.
Okay.
I'm Logan Toms. I'm the junior rep for Gig Harbor High School, and despite the fact that the semester is coming to an end, we still have a lot going on. So for some general things going on, next week, at the start of the new semester, we're going to have an alternated schedule, or a rework schedule essentially, so we can have our homeroom or Tides time every day. And the goal of this primarily is to kind of rekindle school spirit and what we want the school to look like moving forward. Additionally, we have seniors currently working on grad ads for the yearbook, and also next week is Counselor Appreciation Week, which they're putting in a lot of effort right now, and it's just to celebrate all of the good work they're doing to help keep us on track. Now, for sports, a lot of sports are coming to an end, but there are still a few remaining activities and postseason games. So looking at boys swim and dive, they finished first place in our South Sound conference, and will swim at districts on February 2nd and 3rd at Rogers High School in Puyallup. Looking at girls basketball, they are currently 11-3 in our conference and will be finishing their regular season this Thursday at a home game against Peninsula, which will be really exciting, and I hope to see a lot of you there. And also their postseason play will begin on February 9th. Looking at boys basketball, they are currently 15-3 this season and will be finishing their season also this Thursday against Peninsula, however, in an away game. And their postseason will be on the 10th of February. Looking at girls bowling, on the 27th of this month, they finished 7th overall in their competition, with Kim Bornt, Natalie Flick, and Mackenzie Olsen qualifying for state, which is on February 2nd and 3rd at Bolero Lanes. Not sure if I'm saying that right, but also boys wrestling finished the season really strong and will be competing at regionals on the 11th in Oak Harbor, and the girls will compete in Bethel on the same day. Looking at our cheer team, cheer will be competing at state on February 2nd and 3rd at Battleground High School, and our H2O team is coming off of first place in the hip hop and pom categories at the Mountain View competition this past weekend, and their next competition will be at Puyallup High School on February 10th. So really excited for that. And since our winter sports are wrapping up, we have spring sports coming in, and tryouts are going to be starting on the 26th. So we're making sure to get a lot of the forms in on time so people can be ready for that. Now, for looking at some of Gig Harbor's other activities, just recently Gecko Club and our National Honor Society combined in a group effort and cleaned Gig Harbor High School's parking lot and collected over 100 pounds of garbage, which it's kind of sad it was there in the first place, but thankfully we have some people picking it up. Our Gig Harbor High School Knowledge Bowl team this past week on Thursday beat Stadium and Eatonville and scored a season high of 132 points, which is pretty exciting. And Speech and Debate is heading to Federal Way this weekend and for their last main season tournament, and will be heading to the national qualifying tournament in the coming months. Now, our last main thing is our Gig Harbor High School Jazz Band 1 and 2 are going to be performing next week on February 6th at Peninsula High School for the District Jazz Fest, where they'll be performing along Peninsula's band and a bunch of the middle school programs, which will be very, very exciting. So yeah, that's a lot of the stuff going on at Gig Harbor High School. Thank you.
Okay, I do have one quick question. For maybe some senior parents who have not got their grad abs in yet, is there a deadline for that? Hypothetically speaking, you said seniors are working on them, so I'm assuming there's still time to do it.
I'll look into it. I'll see if I can get it to you by this meeting.
It's the 8th to get it in? So if it's been purchased, just needs to be created. Okay, thank you. Thanks, guys. I mean, for those who would need it.
Asking for a friend.
Yes. All right, what's happening at CTP?
Hello, my name is Amelia Scheffler from CTP. This is my last year. We have 7 graduates this year. All of the graduates are either working or looking for work. Our goal at CTP is becoming independent and being successful at a job. Personally, I am volunteering at St. Nicholas Preschool, and I will attend NAU, Northern Arizona University, fall of 2025. I hope to be a preschool teacher. Now let's talk about what's happening at CTP. Unified Sports. We have 2 teams, the Dragons and the Sharks, and Unified Cheer. We are halfway through our season. The games this Saturday happen at 11 and noon at Ross High School. Cheer will be there too. Tonight we will be playing in a unified showcase game during the PHS halftime. Unified Club. Last week we made tie blankets to donate to Kid Advantage. Next week we are making accessory bottles with 2nd graders at Bose Elementary. We are hoping to send some of our officers to a Special Olympics leadership campus in Wenatchee, since Peninsula High School is one of the unified champion school.
Cool. Yeah.
Night to Shine dance is coming up February 9th. This is an inclusive dance sponsored by Tim Tebow all over the world. Ours is at the YMCA. All of the CTP girls went to Allie's prom project and picked out beautiful dresses, jewelry, and shoes to wear. Mine is red. Then we went out to eat. It was a special day to remember. We will all eat dinner together, catered by Montezuma's restaurant before the dance. Can't wait.
Fun.
Coming up is Meals for Morton. Chewy feed. A Chewy feed fundraiser on February 29th at Peninsula High School Commons. We remember Barb Martin, her passion for cooking and teaching. I still use an apple slicer she made me and a tool to help me open jars. These allow me to be independent. The OTs at different schools are using the funds for lessons with their students. The OTs have access to a cooking kit and money to buy food. Weekly, we go to Penmet Park's music, movement, and social group at Samuel Park. I like interacting with other students and alumni. Lastly, our talent show is coming up February 15th at Gig Harbor High School Auditorium at 11:30. You won't want to miss the action. We are hoping to get a sushi chef, Dana Carnahan, to come in and teach us how to make different kinds of sushi. Thank you for letting me share what's going on at CTP. I have to get to a unified basketball showcase game since I'm one of the cheerleaders.
Awesome. Thank you, Amelia. Good job. You guys are busy. Okay, so Amelia, if you need to head out to go to your game, you can feel free to do so. Okay, you have a little bit of time? Okay, thanks.
Good evening, everybody. As the semester is coming to an end, we are excited for the new classes upcoming and the new students we are going to be expecting. We're excited to meet them. The day before winter break, December 20th, the big toy in the back of our school has officially been removed. It was a really cool process to watch, and now we are working on building a garden in that area, which will be managed by our leadership class, and our biology and graphic design classes will be joining us to help with the garden project in the second semester. We hosted our pop-up clothing shop this year, where we collected clothes from students, staff, and their families who had clothes they did not want anymore. Our leadership class put it all together, and it turned out to be extremely successful, as people came and got some clothes and shoes, as well as just played dress up to be goofy during lunchtime. In April, we will be hosting a small pop-up shop full of our fancy dresses for prom and some of the summer clothes. We ended up being open for 2 weeks instead of 1 this year, as everyone was enjoying the pop-up shop and we had so many clothes. Yesterday, we dismantled the pop-up shop and are getting ready to donate the clothes we will not be using in April to the Fish Food Bank and the thrift shop by Peninsula. And we are also getting a donation bin for our school to put the clothes in. We are also giving the clothes that have cool designs to our teacher who is leading the sewing class in the second semester. And the fancy formal clothing are being saved for our miniature pop-up shop in April for prom dresses. Today and yesterday, we had members of the grounds and maintenance team do some work on our sidewalks and trim down our trees, which we are very appreciative for. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, excellent. Good job, you guys. Wow. You all are, did you say a sewing class is starting? Yeah. Fun. Okay, that's cool. Do you think there'll be like a project runway element to it, or do you know what it's going to look like?
It's gonna be, so right now I think it's just learning to sew and construct things. I think eventually it could turn into that where people could like make their own stuff and it could be like showed off, which I think would be really cool to see. But I don't know.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you all. You guys are incredibly busy. We appreciate you spending your time here with us and sharing all that's going on in your schools. Any questions for our students before we move on? No? All right, nice work. Okay, we're moving on to item 5 on the agenda, which is comments from the community. When addressing the board, please state your name, your first and last name at the podium, and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. So you'll see a timer up here. Additional time may be granted as a reasonable accommodation for disability or language interpretation. So we have 2 speakers this evening, so I will just call James McCourt first. Come to the podium. Thank you.
Hello? Hello? Good? Okay. My name is James McCourt, and I'm a junior and a member of the Black Student Union at Gig Harbor High School. And tonight I'm representing the Black Student Union. According to the 2022-2023 Peninsula School District Annual Report, only 0.76% of our student population identifies as Black or African American. This obviously shows a lack of diversity. For Black students, this leads us to feel underrepresented and like we don't fit in. But as well as feeling different, people treat us different, whether it's being called slurs or saying offensive jokes or comments to our faces or behind our backs. And it's not our teachers' fault. People of other races don't know the experience of being Black. They haven't experienced it. We feel the actions of people can be changed with education. We think the first step to the solution would be teaching our students in age-appropriate ways about racism. It would be most appropriate to have Black people teaching about this subject. If this isn't a curriculum commitment the board is prepared to move forward with at this time, we would like to ask if we can have speakers come in and teach PSD students about history and racism. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, James. And next we have Carol Rivera.
Hi, my name is Carol Rivera. I'm the president of the Peninsula Education Association, and I'm here tonight first and foremost just to recognize all of our school board for the work that you do. Much like teaching, there's a lot behind the scenes that you have to do in order to really learn the district and understand its needs. So thank you for doing that and the efforts that you continually do to learn more and push us forward for the things that we need to accomplish. I just wanted also to recognize it's nice to have our students come and present and participate. They represent the best of us and they keep us reminded on our purpose that we share together. In general, I don't have a lot other to say. Other than that, just we are ending the end of term, so just like students, our elementary and high school teachers will be spending their time wrapping up grading and those sort of things. So Friday is a day off for students. It is a non-work day for our elementary and high school teachers. Our middle schools remain on trimesters, so our middle school staff will be participating in professional development. So the work goes on behind the scenes as well. So we just wanted to thank our teachers for supporting the students during the end of term and for all they do for our community. Thank you.
Okay, item 6 on the agenda this evening is our consent agenda. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the agenda? I'm sorry, the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
It's been moved by David and seconded by Lori to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion is carried and the consent agenda has been approved. Item 7, we have our reports this evening. The first one is item 7.1. This is our monthly budget update. Is Ashley here? Oh, there she is. All right. Ashley is our CFO for the district, so thank you for coming and presenting tonight.
Okay, I'm going to open this on my computer because as I get older, my eyes tend to fail me. Okay, so we're going to be going over our Forecast 5 budget status report. This is for the time period concluding December 31st of 2023. So think about this as like our calendar year-end review of where we are. So this first page is our revenues. One of the things that we're looking at there is those top 4 semicircles. You're going to see sort of a black line of where we are currently, and then underneath you're going to see a percentage of where, based upon budget, based upon past analytics, we would be expected to be in close to that percentage. So I look for those variances because if we're off, either positive or negative from that variance percentage, we need to dig in and we need to figure out why. Our revenues, you're going to see if you look at that green semicircle, that pops as being extremely off. Okay, so that was the first thing I looked at, and so then I did a little bit of digging. And so this is our federal revenue. So our federal revenues, we are about approximately $500,000 of revenue received over what we had budgeted to have at this point in the school year. And then after doing a little bit more digging, we have 2 elementary schools that as of this year went on to fully free and reduced based upon the legislative requirements that were passed last year. The inclusion of these schools being fully free and reduced, or basically fully free for the students, has netted an increase in our federal funding for the food service program. But what I really want to be able to point out is these 2 schools offering free meals, free breakfast, free lunch to students. We saw the participation in these schools increase by 15,102 meals over what was served last year between September to December. So over 15,000 more meals were served in those 2 elementary schools, which are not large elementary schools. That is a significant increase in participation in the food service program in these buildings. So I know that there's currently bills being heard at the legislative level in regards to impacts in school districts with lowering that poverty threshold that qualifies a school for increased federal and state funding to offset meal costs. So we can already see a positive impact coming here to Peninsula School District on these schools, both with students actively participating in the meal program, but then that federal reimbursement rate obviously being higher. Now, with that being said, federal reimbursements are reimbursements. They have to be earmarked for the food service program. And so we are investing back into our food service program and determining what our food service program is going to look like next year. So, go ahead.
Can you talk a little bit briefly about the importance for families to fill out that paperwork, though? So even though they may be getting free lunches, what is the benefit of families filling out that free and reduced lunch form and then that being registered? Can you talk just briefly about that?
Yes, that's a great prompt. So, on that side, a lot of our funding, both state and federal funding, are tied to poverty percentages. These poverty percentages are created by literally taking these free and reduced meal forms and counting them and determining how many qualify for free, how many qualify for reduced across the student population as a whole within a district. Once your poverty percentage has been created, that's how your federal funding and your state funding flows through to the district. It impacts your title funding. It impacts your LAP funding. It impacts our ability to obtain competitive grants at both the federal and state level. So it is an awesome program in the sense that our kids get to eat for free. But one of the things that we even saw during the pandemic was a decrease in the meal applications being returned, which actually caused like Evergreen to fall off the high poverty 3-year trending threshold, and the district lost over $100,000 that was utilized for educational enhancements in that building. So we still need the forms to be completed so that we can get an accurate tracking of true poverty percentages within the district, since that's what they're tying our funding to.
And actually, those forms are confidential as well, right?
Absolutely.
Just wanna make sure.
Both at the state and federal level. It's need to know only, and we have, they won't even give me the information because I don't have a need to know. So they secure it quite appropriately. So it is important to get them back. And this is one of those things that we want to be able to feed the kids at school and make sure that they have access to even breakfast after the bell, that they're getting the nutrients that they need in the day to be successful learners. But at the same time, we do need to protect the limited federal funding that this district even receives due to our demographics, and ensure that that isn't going to decrease with more meal participation across the board.
Ashley, can I just put an exclamation point on that? We were down in Olympia earlier this week and talking about the stigma for students that would be free and reduced lunch rate. Can you just reiterate, if a family qualifies for free and reduced lunch rate, they don't have to say something, they're not targeted in the lunch. Can you just talk just briefly about that? About how that should not be a stigma and should not be a barrier for families to be able to fill out that form, because really even you don't know.
Correct. So there was a lot of legal changes that had occurred over, in all reality, the last 5 years in regards to this. Because one of the things that statistically we find is, especially in secondary schools, middle and high school, there is the stigma associated with turning in this form, and they're going to be labeled free and reduced, and they don't want to be called out for that, which makes complete sense. So in the sense, the federal government and state government have come down and they have put all these regulations down in regards to who can actually access the information and the need to know in order to access the information. This also ties to other House bills that have been passed over the last 5 years, like House Bill 1660, which allows individuals free access to extracurricular activities and athletics and ASB cards if they qualify for free and reduced. And so I was actually doing some digging today to determine if an individual is free and reduced in like our high schools. Do they have to go out and actively request their ASB card with their sticker showing paid? Because they shouldn't have to identify themselves. And the information that I got back from the buildings is no, a specific individual in the building gets the list, prepares the cards, hands them out. So we have a lot of those safeguards in place, so there's very limited individuals that actually know this information. And legally, it cannot just be sent to anybody in a building just because they work there or they are an administrator. It truly is a need to know. Okay.
Just one more quick question, just to clarify. Is it can you just explain if it's a physical form or it's an online
because
form?
Because the feds won't get online with a digital form. We would love that. But no, it is literally a paper form that has to be sent out, has to be collected back in, it has to be filled out in entirety. It is heavily audited. To ensure that they filled out their full name and the siblings are listed and they checked the box and all of that. So if you just go through the actual form, it tends to be front and back and just answer the questions as explicitly as it states. There's not a ton of them. It's more of information about your student, and then you have to write in some information regarding your income. The district isn't turning around and saying, okay, well, you said you made $52,000. Give me all the support showing that you made $52,000. We do have to sample audit a small percentage, which tends to be 10 to 15 total applications of all applications received, that we actually will then have to follow up with an individual and say, okay, can you please provide additional information? That's for audit purposes. We're required to do that by the state. But again, it's not something that any form that we get, you're required to put in your check stubs or anything like that. Just fill it in, send it in, and then assuming you met the income thresholds, which are actually fairly high, then there's a little tick mark that goes into the system, and that certain individuals can see, and that's what allows us to get the information over to the appropriate parties to ensure that they have free extracurriculars, free athletics, and free meals.
Thank you.
Okay, so January is always a really exciting month because we have our apportionment true-up, right? It should be exciting because you're like, yay, we're getting more revenues than we had anticipated. So what you're seeing right now with the revenues show what we were anticipating based upon what was originally budgeted, based upon a certain enrollment number for the district. So we get our, we already knew that our enrollment was down, and so we have been doing some preemptive and proactive budget shifting to make sure that we were responsive to what we knew was going to be a decrease in revenues come January. And so you're going to see a little bit more information in regards to this towards the end, but what you're going to see here as far as this revenue page, you are going to see this look different come January because we need to remove what would technically be considered excess revenue that has to go back to the state due to the decrease in enrollment. But I'll get into a little bit more detail on my last slide. Okay, so for our expenditures, the piece on this that I always really look closely at, and I know the board does too, is that I'm going to call it lime green, semicircle on the far left. That's the percentage of expenditures based upon our overall budget percentage, and we know that we have that certain goal threshold that we're wanting to meet, right? So we're wanting to see this percentage be above 4%. So you can see right now, based upon where we're trending with this, that it's telling you that if we follow all of the same spending patterns and we spend what we have budgeted at this point, that we would be ending the year with a 7.48% ending fund balance. That is good. That is healthy. That's not exorbitant or anything like that, but it is a healthy fund balance. So that's one of those pieces that I'm going to track throughout the rest of the year, because when I go in and I decrease our revenues, which I'm going to do so that the next report is accurate based upon our new apportionment, I decrease our expenditures. And so you're going to see that based upon how we budgeted, we're not going to see that percentage decrease. But again, I'm going to save that for the last slide because I like good news on the last slide. So all of the rest of the percentages were right on par with what we would expect for expenditures. The district as a whole, the departments, the staff are doing a really, really good job of being very mindful of the budget that was prepared with their input, and they're spending accordingly. So we're not seeing excessive spending. We're able to adjust when emergent items come up and utilize some cost shifting between departments if necessary to cover unexpected expenses and still be within the confines of our budget. This is my favorite graph out of all of these charts because I like to follow our trends and where we were in past years versus where we are currently. This year we are the dark blue line, and one of the things that you're actually looking at, you see that little green triangle over there? That's what we've budgeted to be at for ending fund balance. So you can see right now we're at about 11.6 million. If we had about a $3 million revenue shortfall, that $3 million revenue shortfall puts us where? Right where we were budgeted to be, okay? And you're gonna see how all those pieces tie together. So ultimately, when you're looking at that, we're following the exact same flow. This gets into a little bit more detail in regards to our actual prior year spending versus where we are right now. One of the things that I really want to highlight is on the left-hand box of columns where you're seeing prior year to date. If you go down, you're going to see that surplus and deficit category. You're going to see at this point last year we were already in a deficit by $836,000. Means we had expended more than we had taken in. And our prior year to that, we were currently 1.8 million in a deficit. So now if you look where we are currently, we're at a $1.5 million positive, okay, because we're being very, very mindful of our dollars out the door. And our annual budget has us set to spend about $1.7 million total over what we have received, utilizing a little bit of that fund balance capacity that we were able to add here at the beginning of the year. So overall, things are trending extremely positively, and you can already see that we've started to shift into the black again from where we were last year. Okay, for the individuals that really like to get into the nitty-gritty and see all of the specific details, one of the things that I do for individuals that are not going to be able to read this is I include a PDF copy with the presentation. The PDF copy is just cleaner. You're going to be able to read it a lot easier. So you can go through, and the individuals that really want to see which specific areas in our general fund we have excess budget capacity versus where we're currently overexpended. Ultimately, what I end up looking at is the net numbers. So right now we have excess total revenues of approximately $280,000, and we have under expended our expenditures based upon budget by $398,000. That's two positives, which is another positive, and I like that. Okay, so there we are with that. So then the last one, just to end on some better news, but the reality of where we live as a state, is I wanted to throw this in here. This is a snippet directly from our apportionment report. Our apportionment report is a very, very lengthy document that goes into a bunch of algebraic equations on how we are specifically being funded for this district. Again, it all ties to enrollment and some other demographic information. So you can see in December for 2023, our annual allotment was slated to be approximately $125 million. This is coming in from the state. There is some federal components to this. It's the federal components that the state actually passes through. So this isn't saying that this is all of our revenues. This is just the pieces that the state pass on to us. Now, in our January 2024 amount, you can see that we went from 125 down to 122. 122 million. So we're seeing a decrease of approximately $2.6 million attributed to that enrollment decrease. Now, the thing that we did with the budget this summer, in order to be conservative, okay, is the dollar value associated with the enrollment increase that we built into the budget, we put into a separate account code. So it's not like an actual separate bank account, but a separate account code, right? And so we didn't tie any expenditures to it. So we put the revenue in one account code and the expenditure in one account code. And then what happens is if the enrollment doesn't come to fruition, you just wipe both sides. It's net neutral. There's no impact, okay? So we have wiped the revenue that technically never existed now, and we wiped the expenditure that didn't need to exist because the enrollment wasn't there. And now we have a budget that's still fully in line with where we expected it to be. So in my world, that's good news because you have one in, one out, net neutral, no harmful impact. What it does mean, though, is we just need to continue doing what we have been doing, is monitoring our spending, making sure that our purchases are in line with our strategic plan in regards to, you know, our department level budgets, and continue tracking and ensuring that as a whole, that we are being mindful of that. And as we continue to be mindful of that, we don't see a negative impact even though we saw a decrease in enrollment. So, questions?
Can you, when you were just on this slide, because I recall that you were quite conservative with the increase in enrollment numbers.
Correct.
Do you have that where that delta was from projected versus what we came in at?
So kindergarten was a fairly significant difference, but it wasn't just us. We were seeing our neighboring districts also just not seeing the kindergartners like we would have anticipated previously. There was also a different piece with the legislation that passed for TK, or what is now TTK, and the fact that last year we were able to include them as part of our enrollment. This year we're not able to include them as part of our enrollment, but they are separate. They're on a separately funded line item on the apportionment report. Whether or not that truly actually will end up funding the program, we don't yet know, because this is a brand new way that they're funding us this year. So we have that. And then we also saw a decrease in juniors and seniors. And don't think decrease like a bunch of kids left, we saw an increase in our running start. And so an increase in your running start numbers are going to naturally decrease the FTE that we can claim here within the district. So the kids are still accounted for. We know where they are. But the pass-through on what we can collect is negligible on that side at best. And it does impact our overall enrollment. So ultimately, that's what we were looking at. But it was conservative overall, so.
And quick question, has there, because it's a relatively newer program now that it's fully funded by the legislature with the college and the high school?
Oh, yeah.
How, sorry, not running, sorry.
Okay.
I completely worded that backwards,
No,
sorry. Starting with the topic sentence of college and the high school.
Perfect. Okay.
Since that is now fully funded by the legislature, are you anticipating or have you seen numbers in that increase and maybe have an impact on how kids choose that versus something like a running start?
Yeah, our participation in our college in the classroom courses this year, even in semester 1, has increased significantly. As far as specific data points, I would have to pick on James, and I don't know if he's actually here. Okay, but James could get you the actual specific data points on that, but we were actually talking about it today, and we have seen a significant increase. I did plan to see less of a running start enrollment because of the college in the classroom offerings. And so we are seeing it utilized more, but it appears, and this is just, we're talking one semester worth of trend data, it appears to be utilized by individuals who wouldn't have gone to running start to begin with. Exactly. And so and ultimately, you know, us and other districts, we're comparing information because ultimately, like, these are the data trends that we need to be able to rely on to forecast future enrollment. And so we're trying to determine, is it us? You know, is it our region? Is it the fact that we have so many different college offerings close to us that's pulling the enrollment out of the classroom and into the actual physical brick and mortar community colleges? So I'm hopeful that here by the end of the year, we'll have a little bit more data to go off of. And then when we're actually budgeting for next year, we'll be able to put that data into play as well.
I don't know if they're going to talk about this or you could answer it. I wasn't able to be at Olympia yesterday, so I don't know. Was there any kind of an update that y'all are aware of on the prototypical funding about no, you know where I'm going with that.
What?
You can answer it if you already.
I'll just say,
Okay.
yes, there's always discussion about it, and so the answer that we get is that basic education is fully funded from the state, but they are funding the model that they have created. So the request from schools is to make adjustments to the model, and I would say it sounds like we're not going to see any of that this year.
Yeah, we didn't, with all of the information in the meetings that I've been on, it's like, we're doing the legwork because that ultimately is how you get change in the long run, but they're not going to take action on it this year.
'Cause I know they were thinking about trying
exactly.
to fund Paris, and I guess that would have created, I don't know what kind of can of worms that would open. I know that we may not be leading the state with where we are with our budget, but we're definitely in the top. What kind of phone calls might you be getting from other districts around the state to ask for help that you, and if you are getting them, I'm serious, if you are getting them, how is that impacting you and your staff? We want to help other districts not face a fiscal cliff, but if you can, are we seeing districts reach out?
Yes, we are seeing districts reach out. I've done some presentations for some statewide organizations on this topic because, like, ultimately we need to pat ourselves on the back in the fact that we saw it coming. We adjusted in 1 year.
I'll just add on to that. We are seeing quite a few superintendents and CFOs reach out. You know, there are many school districts and school boards that are contemplating closing schools, a variety of different, you know, mid-year corrections, RIFs, things of that nature. And I just want to thank this board for being proactive and Ashley for being so conservative all the time. It's nice to have some good news at the end. But we are in a really good place, even with a reduction in enrollment. I just have to underscore how important that was, that Ashley had the foresight to do that, so that now when we see the reality,
that it's not, the sky is falling. And so we will continue to work. I know that our cabinet is working really closely, looking at every single job when people leave, and then reevaluating how can we bundle jobs together, and just being very, very cautious as we look forward, because one of the things that we talked about yesterday is one of the requests that we have through WASA and through WASDA is to change the MSOC, and making up the difference of the percentages that have been, just insurance and maintenance.
Yeah, can you define what MSOC is?
Can you define?
Material, supplies, and operating costs.
Thank you.
It's all your operational costs for running the business side of the district.
Like your lights, like your insurance,
Your
all
curriculum,
of your
your
curriculum. Oh boy, just don't even talk to me about curriculum. So we had a conversation with our legislators yesterday. Our curriculum allotment from the state is $1.5 million per year. That's it per year. And we use at least $3 million, and much of that is ongoing costs that are electronic. I'm looking at Chris back there, that are recurring costs. Once we adopt subscriptions, once we adopt a program, then we have to have update subscriptions every single year. And so that is just a sliver of an example. And or insurance costs, they go up. If they go up 5 or 6%, and we're only given 1.8%, then the difference is problematic. So we had a conversation, and that's really what we thought that we could really have a good conversation yesterday. And Natalie, you can expand on that. But we also requested, of course, special education funding so that it's actual costs. That's $5 million a year. I'm looking at Ashley just to make sure that I'm saying the numbers correctly. Out of our levy. So that's levy dollars going to special education costs of $5 million a year that is not covered by the state, as well as prototypical school model. The formula itself is inadequate. And we've talked about that when we pass our levies. And so all three of those things. But this is a biennium year, and so it's a short session.
Yeah, I want to give a perfect example of what Crescent just talked about the curricular side, though. And it ties back to the fact that the state is funding this model. When the model is not adjusted to keep up with current times, they're funding us like what we are providing students is a textbook, a one-time cost. We purchase it, and then the next year, you don't have to purchase anything again. The reality of the situation is a lot of our curriculum is digital, and it's reoccurring yearly costs for access to that digital software based upon the number of teachers accessing it and the number of students accessing it. Now, it's not like we have to turn around and we have to sign these contracts yearly for that total access. Now, if we don't have that number of students that end up accessing it, it's not like the company comes back and says, hey, here's your rebate. You didn't use this many licenses. So the fact that they're funding us on a model of actual physical textbooks, but the reality is this day and age, that's not where we are. We have kids, we have computers in front of kids. Curriculum is going digital, and they have not changed the model to keep up with the times. No, they have not. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then you end up dealing with printing costs. Because if it's digital, but that doesn't work for some students, we want to be responsive to our students' needs. So you're going to turn around and you're going to print. Well, now you have your copy costs and everything associated with having to print on site, which tends to be more expensive. So we have all of those pieces that are tied together.
I will just shout out a little bit before we wrap this up that I forgot who asked. David, you asked if people are coming to you for help, and I think it's exceptional to point out that they are, because Ashley and her team, Jamie, have done such a wonderful job. Preston, I know you as well are getting contacted by superintendents asking how we can manage it. We hear from other board members, so thank you for your professionalism and the expertise that you bring to this, because it is it keeps us solvent, and it keeps us being able to do things that focus on kids, keeps all of the cuts from the classroom. Also, you both have been invited to teach superintendent, so I mean, you can't get a better compliment.
I know, it is, but they're a good group. It's okay.
Well, and we want people to be successful.
Yeah.
Of
We're
course.
a public school system across the state. It does no one any good for a school district to be struggling.
Well, I think also when districts understand the challenges of funding, and let's face it, we're board members, we're elected out of completely different fields. It takes a lot to learn this, but when you understand the complexities of it, it helps us advocate better. So when we're in Olympia, I think, I mean, it's been 5 years for me. I finally feel like I can speak somewhat intelligently for what we are asking for and what the realities of it are. So that is largely in part due to the education you've provided this board. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for
these
your
reports.
support.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Thanks.
Moving on to item 7.2, the Evergreen Eagle Quest update. Not that the budget report wasn't exciting, but this is super exciting.
She was that much taller than me. All right. Good evening, Board of Directors, Superintendent Barr. Thank you for having us tonight. I think it was December that you got a little postcard with a slight picture, a little snippet of what we're going to talk about tonight. We want to give you a bigger understanding of our vision for what we're trying to create and some opportunities that we're going to be launching in the very near future. I'm going to just get myself settled on this clicker here, know what I'm doing. There we go. Oops. That went really fast. Okay. So, one of the things that we really want to think about are access to program models, access to innovative programming, particularly out on the Key Peninsula. And so this fall, we hope to open up a model, and we'll talk about why I said hope a little bit later, of 2 multi-age classrooms, similar to what our PACE programming looks like, where there's a 2-3 and a 4-5 program that is focused on outdoor learning and taking those experiences that students can have outside and take their world and their learning to the field, if you will. We really want to take advantage of the opportunity of the KP, those beaches and the trails and the forests and the parks and the just amazing environmental experience that kids can have and get them out there and experiencing the world. We also have been doing a little bit of research, or quite a bit of research, on the Outdoor Schools for All in Washington for OSPI. The interesting thing about that is that it really is built on a overnight camp model, which is not what our vision is. But there's such great work around the principles and the practices that can happen for students with outdoor experiences. And we know that from our experience with our transitional kindergarten model. So we're really jumping into this idea that students can take their learning anywhere. The research around outdoor learning is vast and clear and powerful, and not only do we see gains in students around academic results, but also those social skills and the problem-solving skills and the collaborative thinking and all of that, the whole child approach, where you're really trying to make sure that they are not just about taking this science paper test, but they're seeing science in action, they're seeing math in action, they're seeing literacy in action, they're figuring out how to engage in their world in in the real world experience. Our approach will really be a project-based, STEM-based, taking the classroom and making it visible, making it live out in the world. And when you think about the possibility of the partnerships that we can create with the community and other organizations that are on the KP or not on the KP, and just really figuring out how to get kids to the people and where the problems are and help them see how that real world experiences can help drive that. We definitely have got a project-based approach with this, and we have a lot of work to do. Not that that means any of this is planned, but the goal is that we're seeing the success of what we're seeing in transitional kindergarten and recreating it in classrooms a little later on. The other question we have been wondering about, or we might be asking ourselves, is why Evergreen? Evergreen has an incredibly perfect spot. They've been working on becoming a green school. They have been focused on outdoor education and environmental learning for several years now, and it just felt like the first perfect fit. It's
a long ways out there for families who don't have access to something else a little closer. And so it just makes the most sense to make that opportunity live right there at Evergreen. Natalie's going to talk a little bit more about the next steps and where we're headed from here.
All right, so when we think about our student population of this program, the first priority will be students who are previously or newly identified as PACE students. So these are students who go through our testing process and then receive invitations to join one of our PACE programs. We don't currently have a PACE program on the Key Peninsula. So for our Key Peninsula students who have been identified, they would be invited first to join this program. After those spaces are taken, those students have had the opportunity to join, then we'll go through a lottery system. The first part of that lottery will be for designated spots of students from schools in the Key Peninsula. So from Evergreen, from Vaughan, and from Minter. Once those are filled, then we will move on any additional spaces to additional students within the school district. So if there's a student who is currently at Harbor Heights and they have some interest, then we have that ability. In the event that there are any spaces available after that, then we would open it up to students outside of the school district. A general timeline. So after tonight, so tomorrow, we will be launching a community interest survey. And this is really to get the feedback of not only families, but also community partners. We want to, as Creston often says, we want to plus it. We want to get ideas from our community. We want to form those partnerships. We also want to gauge the interest of our families in sending their students into a program like this. So we'll have that survey. It'll open up. It'll be a post on social media. We'll get it on our website. It'll post tomorrow, and it'll be open through February 19th to get that interest from the families. As we move on to February, we'll be reviewing that input and really shaping this program further based on the input. We'll also start working on those teacher job descriptions and working through identifying the timelines for the hiring process. As we move on to March and April, that's where we're going to really roll up our sleeves and get to work on the enrollment process. You know, do we have enough students to run this program? What is that process? But also that teacher onboarding, getting a teacher and getting 2 teachers hired, getting people who are really invested and have a vision for creating this. As we move into May and June, we hope to take them on site visits to programs that run similar school-based outdoor programs. Have them have some time to create that framework, really plan what that first scope and sequence of a year is going to look like in this new program. And then September 3rd, 2024, we hope to open the doors for EagleQuest to that first group of students. So a little bit more about the community survey. So I said it in the timeline. It'll be open up the 31st through February 19th. As I also said, I would just want to reiterate, the shaping of this program will really be based on what we hear back from our community. So we're really hoping for some high engagement from all stakeholders, to get not only that interest, but give us some ideas and help lead us into thinking things from a different perspective, forming partnerships. So what this program looks like in fruition on September 3rd is really going to be based on what we hear from our community and being able to gauge that interest.
Questions? I see you have a lot, so maybe let's do like one at a time if everyone has questions.
Some of them I'll wrap up.
Okay.
Yeah, these can all 3 be encapsulated. I'll just ask them all, and just you can answer it one holistic, and I'll ask my second question after everyone else. I would prefer to see this program be completely filled by Key Penn students. That'd be my priority. So my question around that would be, do we anticipate, obviously you haven't done the survey, do you anticipate not filling the openings with only Key Penn kids? And if we have a single Harbor Heights student that wants to do it, how are we gonna get that single student from Harbor Heights all the way to Evergreen? It's an hour-plus long bus ride.
Yeah.
Are we gonna have to fund getting them there? So that's my first question.
Those are absolutely the questions we're wrestling with too. We know the priority about serving the students on the Key Peninsula first, absolutely. And I think we've had some conversation about maybe rather than filling 2 classrooms, the better plan would be to say we're strictly going to fill, if we've got so much for 2, 3, we're going to fill 1 classroom first and then grow it over the course of the years rather than jump in with 2, maybe not full classes. So we're still working through those details. Ideally, we'll have hundreds of people who are ready to sign up, and we have to make that decision from the Key Peninsula. But we also recognize that this is very unknown. People don't know. We looked for sites all over the area, and there's not a lot out there. So this is new, and this is maybe something someone doesn't trust yet, or we have to do some work to really build it. So our priority is definitely serving the students on the KP, also serving students who qualified for PACE because they have not had access out there. So I think between those 2 numbers, that should be enough to get us started. We can discuss with Ashley and the enrollment models what decisions we need to make about whether it's one classroom first and then grow, or we have enough to start 2 small ones. So
I'll just ask you, that's a good segue. The community survey, is there going to be tied with that anything for people to be able to familiarize yourself with this concept? Because it's extremely well known in other parts of the world, but not here. And I would hate for assumptions to be made and input to be given from a position of not understanding the model. I'm thinking right now about one of the best short form documentaries I've ever seen. I will send it around to you guys, called Lessons from a Forest Kindergarten. And it's all about these schools as they exist right now, you know, I think this one's in Germany. And it just is so eye-opening to see how math is taught and how all of that stuff is taught in the outdoor environment. But it just makes it yes, we definitely need a community survey, but I just am nervous if we have any ideas about how to give people a little primer about what it is. In absence of the fact that we may not know yet.
We don't know what it looks like. Yeah.
But at least some high level conceptual understanding, right? Like they will still be learning to read and learning math. And,
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes, we will still have that focus on literacy
Right.
and align to our strategic plan goals.
Right.
The way that we have the survey now, it lines up with this presentation. And so it doesn't give any additional information, but that's great food for thought as we think about telling that story and helping to educate our community.
I think it's also broad enough that it's like, you know, is this something that you could foresee or have some interest in? And what are some things that you might want to see? Like, we really do want to, what would that look like to you? How do you envision that going? Because that's part of the beauty of this is designing it with the people that are involved.
Yeah, one thing in that documentary is they interview parents, and there were several parents who were like, I was terrified. I did not know what this was about. I didn't know anything, but, and then they're the converts now. They love it. They love this program, but, you know, even in cultures where this is more standard, there's still a lot of unknowns. So that's my only concern about a survey without context.
So may I just jump in?
Yeah.
There will be 2 classrooms. So it's not all out in the woods. It's not like there's no physical place. Yeah. So I think it's important to note that there will be 2 classrooms where it will be held, and there are restrooms and water, things like that. There's not compostable, you know, toilets. It's just, there will be regular classrooms and multiple opportunities of being outside every single day for multiple hours.
I think we can liken it really to what happened with transitional kindergarten too, where it was like, oh, what? We're taking 4-year-olds to Kopachok, you know, and that feeling of sort of, oh, and what has happened organically with that and with the families that are in it and what they've learned through that experience. And I really would love to see similar models. They are going to have a classroom. They're going to have standards that they'll meet. They're going to have time to work on a computer because that's all part of the life of a 2nd through 5th grader right now.
and we'll have those field-based opportunities. Evergreen's doing that now, where their kids are out in the trails and they're going to the beach. We're just trying to enhance that and increase it and come at it from a little bit of a different approach.
Those are good.
How is it being communicated, and is the survey, you might have said this, but is it just going to families on the KP initially, or what does that
No,
look
we're
like?
looking more broadly, because we are also trying to find community partners who'd be interested, or even someone who said, oh, I know an aviary. That's the bird person, right? I think that's a conversation I had with someone at Heron's Key once. They said, I know somebody who's an aviary. I should get them connected with TK. That's the kind of like organic, really, we are very early in this process, and that may mean that the first part of the year looks a little bit more like a traditional classroom, and they're in a classroom and they're figuring out what they want to study, and then they go out and find it, and then they come back, and by the end of the year they're looking a little bit more like what we're seeing in TK, where they're out 60% of the day.
The survey is general. There is a question that says, are you interested in this program for your child? And then at that point, if they say yes, then it does trigger some additional information, including the child's current grade level and school. So at that point, we'll know if they completed the survey, where the family is from. So we're trying to use the same survey to bring us a different grouping, like multiple pieces of information.
We can also, we didn't think about this before this, but we can think about having the 3 elementary schools on the KP do a parent square out to their families currently as well. So
yep.
Right. Simple question, but it may be too soon for this, but is the vision that a child who starts in the 2nd grade would stay in the program through, just like Pioneer or anywhere else that? Okay.
Just like our PACE programs as well.
Are you prepared to see this grow? I think you're going to be inundated with people wanting to get into this program.
Wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah. I think the thing that we need to talk about and continue to investigate, and Voyager's a great example of this, is what can we do without having it to be a separate classroom or a place to go to do this? How do we envision this work, these experiences happening for kids all the time, everywhere?
Yeah.
So a great example is, how do we get the kids who were in TK at Voyager to grow into some other experiences wherever they are? Same with Evergreen. Just because they might be in this program and they might be getting a little bit different experience doesn't mean that other students can't have access to the beach or to those same kinds of community partnerships. So I do think as a system, we can continue to talk about how we grow those models for sure. And then what happens when they go to middle school?
Yeah. Yeah.
And help use these classrooms as the model classrooms that teachers can come and visit and see this in action, and that helps to grow and inspire that within our own district as well.
Yeah, I think just based on my limited experience with interactions with my kids' teachers, knowing who they are, like, so much interest. I would think that we would have a really nice base of resource, in-house knowledge. So this is so exciting. Thank you, guys.
I would prepare yourself.
Okay.
Prepared.
They're prepared.
Well, our plan is to do the work around getting the right job descriptions out there and all of that, and hopefully hire the people early enough that we can get some real work done with the teachers that will be teaching the classes, and start building those partnerships. Again, I think starting slowly and building this out as we go, and really developing those goals and those frameworks of what we want it to look like.
So I also, there are amazing things that are going on in our classrooms. I'm just thinking of a conversation that I had with a teacher who went on a field trip today over to Tacoma, and they got to see some amazing things, looking back at Marcy. But I think that we need to say yes to more things. That's the part with talking with Ashley around our budget and encouraging and expecting and supporting students being out in the community, exploring,
having their curiosity, going to events, and just kind of being out there as an expectation that families know that if you put your child in a Peninsula School District, they are going to get some awesome, amazing experiences so that they become very creative and energetic and proactive, teenagers into adults. So just really encouraging that, because we really are doing amazing things and our teachers are doing amazing things. So this just builds on as one more aspect, especially out on the Key Peninsula. We heard you loud and clear around gifted and talented and multiple opportunities.
I just realized I didn't ask students if they had questions about the budget, so I'm going to let you, if you have questions about budget, Ashley is still here, and if
We're
you have
not going
questions
to answer those questions
about
your budget,
Evergreen,
but-
yeah, so jump in and.
Sadly, no questions about the budget. So there was this kind of concern by Jennifer about like not enough information online, or people like just taking a first glance and not being convinced. Like, where specifically can information about this program be found online, or has that not really been developed yet?
We have not developed that yet, but I think we could probably put ourselves some time together really quickly and put a little web page together that explains kind of the vision and what we're intending to accomplish, and some resources that people can experience, see some of the transitional kindergarten work that's happening and how that's been pretty successful, and move, get some ideas back there.
Well,
sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now that I'm thinking about it, if you have curiosities, you are also spokespeople for the board at your school. If you want to tour some of these programs and check it out, I think it would be fantastic if you went out to see our TKs right now and see what it looks like to be a 4 or 5-year-old hanging out at Kopachuk. So if that's something you guys are interested in, I think that we can make that work.
Yeah.
You come, yeah, I mean, we're going to put you to work. You have to read, and you have to hike, and you have to garden, and you have to make mud pies and all that stuff. But
yes.
Yeah, any other questions from students? Is this something that you think that you would want to do if you were 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade? It's so cool. Yeah.
All 3 hands on it.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to go visit the Voyager, because they put their hoodies on, or their raincoats on and boots, and they're out there.
Yeah.
There is no bad weather.
Only bad clothes. It's a national saying in Norway. So I can't speak more highly about it. We had kiddos who went to a program like this in a different country, and they're comfortable outside still. So awesome. Thank you. I can't wait to see what comes next. Okay. Moving on to the really exciting piece, policy revision. So we are moving on to item 9, which is new business. Item 9.1 is policy revision. And we've had some discussion about maybe going into more detail about what we do with policies, why we're updating things. And the fact is sometimes there are policies that come at us and they impact culture or things that are happening in the schools, and some of them really are just in place to move along business. So I don't know that there's always need for discussion, but if anyone wants to jump in and talk about these, we certainly can. The first one that is up, item 9.1, is policy revision on 6213, which is reimbursement for travel expenses. So this is just an update to model language from the WASDA policy. So is there any discussion prior to the vote? Well, this is the first reading, so are we voting?
You can request to adopt it.
Okay, we can just move to adopt. It's just an update, yeah?
Unless you need more time.
Does anyone have any hang-ups over adopting the travel reimbursement policy? Okay. Okay, so is there a motion to approve policy revision 6213?
I move to approve policy revision 6213.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Jennifer
this
and
right.
seconded by Chuck to approve policy revision on policy 6213. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion is carried. Policy revision number 6213 has been approved. Item 9.2 is a first read of policy 3140, release of students. So this is a first reading. There's no action requested at this time. Is there any discussion or any conversation about what that means? No. Okay. Item 9.3, policy adoption is the first read of policy 3141, non-resident students. Kristen, do you mind just defining what that would mean by resident?
A non-resident student would be a student that did not live within our catchment area. So for instance, they would be in Tacoma or they would be in South Kitsap, and then they make a request to attend Peninsula schools. A little bit about what you heard today. And then we have the option to accept them or not. If students live within our catchment area, they are allowed to go to Peninsula School District, even if our classes are full, it doesn't matter. So that's what that policy
we have staff
speaks to.
members who work in this district but live somewhere else. They like to have their children
Correct.
come here, so that would be an example of that. Okay, so again, but there's no action at this time. Is there any discussion on that policy? Okay, item 9.4, adoption of the 2025-26 and 2026-2027 school year calendars. So I want to thank everyone who took time to work on this and everyone who filled out the survey. It was fun to go through the survey results, and I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news that we still do need to get 180 days out of this. So it's funny to see, we want to start after Labor Day, we want to end early, we want weeks for breaks, and we want 4-day weekends. So I thank you to the team who worked hard to accommodate everything, and shout out to this team for using AI again as we are learning how to use that technology. So putting in all of this information into AI and generating some really some pretty good options for our calendar that really took into account the needs and wants of our district family, staff, and students. So that said, we have these 2 years, which will now put us on a cycle for having a 3-year look ahead. So each year we'll just add one calendar year, so we will always have 3 years to plan and hopefully avoid a situation where we don't provide that opportunity to plan. So that said, is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the 25-26 school year calendar?
I make a motion that we adopt, or that we approve adoption of 2025, 26, and 26, 27 school year calendars.
Okay. We're going to do one at a time. So
Oh.
So we're approving the 2025, 2026 calendar. It's been moved by David and seconded by Lori to approve the 2025, 2026 school year calendar. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is carried. 2025, 2026 calendar has been approved. Is there discussion prior to the vote on the 2026, 2027 school year calendar? Is there a motion, did I say that? Is there a motion to approve the 26, 27 calendar?
I move to approve the 26, 27 calendar.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Lori and seconded by Jennifer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion is carried. The 2026, 2027 school year calendar has been approved. Yay!
That was a lot of work.
That was a lot of work. Thank you. I think the process was really fantastic, so thank you. Moving on to item 10, the superintendent's report.
All right. Well, I have to say I was very excited about that last presentation. So that is very, very exciting. Chuck and I had an opportunity to visit a farm today, and so looking forward to thinking about that. I'll let Chuck talk about that if he wishes. We had the opportunity to attend a very long day on Sunday, Day on the Hill, and listen to WASA and WASDA, our legislative platform, and listen to speakers. And so I think I just mentioned what we really were lobbying and having conversations with our legislators. But I do want to say all three of them are very receptive and very supportive of our public schools, and we really, really appreciate our relationship. It's important for them to know that if there's anything in public education that they need to know, that they can contact us, and vice versa when they're out in their respective roles. They know that what we have told them is truthful, and that we really appreciate their support. I was a surprise reader today at Vaughn Elementary, and I didn't know what that was, Tanya. I didn't realize that I was reading to the entire school during their lunches. That is challenging with all of the couple 150 kids eating and to keep their attention. So It was a challenge for me. And I was challenged because I couldn't figure out if I was looking up on the screen because the book was on the screen or putting my glasses on. So I was a little flustered as an older woman, trying to figure out how to be energetic and exciting and actually see the words. So I read The Big Cheese, which was a hit. And they loved that, and there was participation, although some of the little kids put their hands over their, because there was one sentence that they said like every 3 pages. And I got to read about a scientist for the 4th and 5th graders. And one thing that just struck me, which was really precious, I talked to them about being a biologist and about loving science, and then I read about, being a scientist. And I had this this group of girls come up and they said, we want to be a biologist. We want to be biologists and study animals. And I said, oh, like marine animals? They said, no, land animals. But I was just really humbled to be able to do that for the whole school. So it was really fun. And they said, thank you. And it was really, really a great experience. So that's what a surprise reader is. So beware, it's not just a small little group. It's lots of kids eating and, having conversations at the same time although the 4th and 5th graders were absolutely amazing. The kindergartners, I had to give them hats off because I was reading, if you've read Big Cheese, there's a lot of innuendos and, little words like brie and, things that don't really make sense probably to kindergartners. So I think it kind of went over their head. Last week I had an opportunity to sit with the KP kids. Robin Denson was there representing Pierce County. And I have to say, I felt humbled by the number of people that were there and the powerful partnerships and the real investment in our schools. They care deeply, and we are really fortunate to have that group over in the KP. And I know Chuck and I had the opportunity to do that, but I just had to shout out. And lastly, I will just say that unified basketball is amazing, and the cheer squad is amazing. So if you have not had an opportunity to go to Foss High School this Saturday, it really is a wonderful thing. And we are really fortunate to have the grown-ups in our system and the parents in our system and just random people go and they just support our kids. And it's really, really heartwarming. So I'm sorry that we're missing the halftime show, but I bet it's amazing. So thank you for that. And thank you for all the kids. 100 students are participating in that unified to go and play basketball with our students. So it's pretty powerful. Oh, and lastly, I will not be at the next board meeting. I will be representing the state of Washington at the governing board in San Diego for the state of Washington for the superintendent. So I will be Zooming in, and Dan will be sitting in my seat. Or sitting, I don't know where you sit when I'm gone, but you can sit up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, board discussion and comments. Who wants to start tonight?
Why don't you start tonight? You always go last.
I wrap up.
Oh, okay.
I'll start because I have very little. I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed the student rep reports tonight. It's like the highlight of the meeting. So fun to hear from you guys and all the things and also having the Voyager students here. It's just a reminder of why we do what we do. And so thanks so much for really giving us a real look into what goes on in your schools and in your lives. So I appreciate all the effort you put into that. And just to mention that I really enjoyed our retreat. We had a board retreat last week where we had several hours of getting to do some reflecting and reviewing things we've done in the past year and also planning for the future. And so that's always really time well spent. So that's all I have.
I really would have liked to know the name of that play. Just to see if you're awake, Alex. I had the honor of getting invited to a meeting out on the Fox Island at the community center for the Young Men Service League. And this is our first, they've only had a couple of meetings, but Young Men Service League is a national organization, nonprofit, that has 13 and 14-year-old young men that go out and do volunteer work with their mothers. And so, so they asked me to come because being a veteran and being on the school board, they just wanted to pick my brain and ask how I got involved, what my background is, you know, what I like about civics and community service and stuff like that. So I was there for about an hour, and it's funny when I talked about all of it, they were like, I really had to pull teeth to get them to answer questions, but when I was done, they all then mingled over and started asking me all kind of questions. Like they didn't want to ask a question in front of everybody, right? So they come over, like I was talking about being a Navy diver, and they go, "How'd you get out of a submarine?" I'm like, "Well, here's." So then they started asking questions after the fact. So it turned out to be a really nice event. So Young Men's Service League. So thank you. So.
Let's see. Well, I got to go to my first ever legislative day on the Hill. So that was really fantastic. It felt a bit like a fire hydrant to the face of learning, but it was good. And I think sort of my big picture takeaway was how important, it all comes down to relationships. And it really made me proud to see, kind of both of you. I think this was the 5th time you've gone now, Natalie, and then, Creston, just to see the number of people that you knew and were connected with and that knew Peninsula School District, and sort of with that, the reputation that our school district and our leadership had amongst so many people in the legislature, where we are so interdependent, and it was just really a moment of pride. So those of you who, we've got incredible leadership here, and, we really should be thankful. This wasn't a day where I felt at all that we were showing up kind of, browbeating our representatives and, asking for money, because that's not how we operate. We have ongoing relationships. They ask us questions, we ask them questions, and it was really mutually respectful and really exciting. So, a lot of I feel like it was really a window into what the best of what politics and leadership and governance could be. So it was really great. So thank you. I really appreciated that opportunity to go. Just one other quick thing. I got to participate in the logo, judging the logos, and I don't know if you guys enjoyed. Well, I think they did share on social media a lot of the entrants, but I was blown away by not only there were so many participants, but the explanations that a lot of the students gave for the symbolism behind their designs was so thoughtful, like from the young elementary all the way up to the high school. So I love the ones that were selected, and I really am excited about what going forward, now that those are kind of being turned over to the pros, how they're going to interpret those and kind of reimagine a brand identity for the district. So yeah, those were the highlights. We're sharing.
Hey. Okay, I'll lean this way.
Yeah.
There is a mic behind.
It's broken.
Oh, it's not working.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if
You thought we were friends.
No. Yeah. They were trying to hide it from me, and I caught on. The farm. Today we had the opportunity to take a look at a farm that Backpack for Kids, Food for All is going to do a lease on out on the Key Peninsula, right near Evergreen Elementary School. 45 acres it was. Got a greenhouse, got a commercial kitchen. It needs a lot of work. So let me just put a plug for a moment. They need tools. They need wheelbarrows. They need rakes. They need shovels. If anybody's got anything to donate, they're starting the work parties this Friday to get it cleaned up and ready to go. But it's ideal in that it comes at this time when we're looking at this program at Evergreen. to have this opportunity out there. It's been a vision from Zeta, Food Backpack for Kids, to do something like this, and I feel so good about being part of that, being there and then being able to get the schools involved, and it's where I've wanted to go with our schools. I've been a big push for CTE, but this is the very basic. This is everybody growing their own food, and it seems like we've gone backwards in a lot of ways. When I was at Peninsula High School back in the day, we had an agriculture program. And so to see this come back around, it makes me proud. And I'm just very proud of where we're going, the strides we've made as a board, as a district. I think we're getting things back on course, and I'm very proud. I'll leave it at that.
Well, I won't expand too much on that. Day on the Hill was fantastic. I think I've mentioned before, I'm part of a group around the state that gets together to discuss democracy and how we lead as in Washington as elected officials. And we were reminded in our last meeting about the importance of democracy and how unique our country is governed and our place in that, whether we're school board directors or representatives. And being in Olympia and in the Capitol building is such a powerful reminder of this great country that we live in and the opportunities that we've been afforded. And for me, it's a reminder of what great fortune we have to be here and to be your representatives in this very important work. So I love being there. I think it's fantastic if kids can come down and just watch a day and see how it happens and be in this amazingly beautiful building. I have a picture of the architect taking pictures of all of the architecture, because you will never see another building made out of marble and gold, and it's just a really, really fascinating place, and it's a joy and a pleasure and a privilege to be part of this work. So thank you for all of you for the work that you do on that. Lori mentioned the retreat. I thought that was a lot of fun, and we have thrown down in our vision that we want to be the best school district in the state, world, whatever. But what is our role in that as a board, and how we operate ourselves? How do we be the best school board in the state? I think kind of aligns with our vision and our strategic plan. So we have some work to do just towards that, making sure that we are leading with that in mind as well. So more to come on that. I think we'll go over some of that activity in our next board meeting and share out some of our protocols and what things will look like moving forward. Thank you all for the posters and the appreciation. Please take cupcakes with you when you leave. Thank you for the video. That's very cool. We love to see that, and I think I speak for all of us to say it's a joy to work for you. Thank you for the thoughtful cards, the keychain. It means a lot. So it's fun. It's fun to do this work all year, and it's really thoughtful and special for you to recognize us for that. So with that, we will wrap up this evening. Our next meeting is going to be here in Swiftwater at 6:00 p.m. on Tuesday, February 13th. And with that, at 7:37, we are adjourned.